Welcome to the Elk Season Podcast, Season 3, Episode 27. Today is Thursday, November 21st, 2024. We are 281 days away from Elk Season. We are the Chambers Brothers. My name is Harold.
I'm David.
And tonight on the Elk Season Podcast,
we're going to have a follow-up with a woman among wolves. A friend of yours also, and somebody I've been acquainted with. Killed some elk during a season recently. Dam removal and fish returns, or fish runs rather. Reduce the deuce, high peakers. We'll give you context for that later. Big Cat and Kimberly. I heard that the school mascot, which is a bulldog, got it. Yeah. American black bear population apparently is massive, but we'll also talk about a black bear and an artificial berry patch.
Yeah.
All that and a little bit more on the podcast today.
we just let the music play.
And it's
stare
episode
blankly.
28.
Did I not say that?
You said 27.
Did I say 27? I thought it was 27.
No, I had 27 from the last week because I said, "Is it 29?" You're all, I think it's 28. I go, "Yeah, I had 27," and so it's probably my fault.
It's totally your fault.
Totally
Obviously, 100% your fault.
So,
all right. So I finished reading A Woman Among Wolves by Diane K. Boyd. 40 years of wolf recovery out west. She started in the Midwest. She started in Minnesota. And when there were so few wolves in the United States, the only active reproductive wolves in the United States were in Minnesota.
okay.
And eventually Michigan. Yeah.
And it's interesting that recently they've had reports of wolves from those areas in Colorado naturally.
Yeah.
Sorry, I didn't mean to distract from the book, but
yeah, that's a trip. We talked about that. We talked about that in a previous episode. So a couple things I learned from this book, or some, I guess, things I probably should have known or remembered. When the Wolf Recovery Project and people got together and said, you know what, maybe wolves are important to bring back to Yellowstone because they were culling elk. They just had to just slaughter elk because there was no natural means of keeping them down. And so they said, okay, well, we have a wolf recovery project for Yellowstone, and but Wyoming is not willing to play ball. They don't want to play ball with the federal government and reintroduce wolves. Montana doesn't want to reintroduce wolves. Doesn't matter. They're already there.
right.
Idaho doesn't want to reintroduce wolves either. So no thank you. Wait a minute. So the state government of Idaho tells the federal government, keep your wolves. We don't want them here. Just stay away. The plan was completely unacceptable to Wyoming. The plan that Wyoming had set forth was like, oh, yeah, we'll do it. Here's our plan. And the federal government's like, yeah, that's not going to work. Right. And the same thing with the Idaho government. Then the Nez Perce tribe steps up and says, hey, we own some land out here, too. How about we work with the federal government?
Okay.
The enemy of my enemy.
Yeah.
So it was the Nez Perce tribe that totally got the wolf reintroduction program back in Idaho.
Wow.
That's
remarkable.
And all they wanted was 100 wolves per state. They wanted 100 in Wyoming, 100 in Idaho, and 100 in Montana. Wyoming goes, yeah, we're not playing ball. And they didn't. The Nez Perce said, yeah. So instead of the 300 between the three states, the original 300 is now between Idaho and Montana. That's where we get the 150 from.
Wow.
That basic 150, that number. And she's a wolf biologist. She loves the wolves. She doesn't understand why anyone would want to kill one. And I'm sure there's lots of people out there like that. And they're beautiful, they're dynamic, their pack strength. It's extremely dynamic. When you hunt wolves, and she talked a lot about hunting wolves because she was working in Montana all the way up through 2021, 2022.
Wow.
And she talks about some of the things that were happening and are happening now, including wholesale slaughter, right? We have night vision. You can hunt at night. You can use lights. You can use night vision. All these tricks to kill wolves. except what they did to get rid of him in the first place, which was strychnine. Right? So, and wolves are really, really hard to kill. Then she tells, because they're hard to find. They want to stay way, way far away from humans. And they have an enormous territory, right? 250 square miles, and they're never in the same place. It seems like they're never in the same place twice. And so she tells this story about this incredibly dynamic wolf. I know last week I told you about a wolf that she followed from Canada to Montana, back to Canada.
Kept in her logbook and all that.
And and there's another one that she trapped as a 5-month-old pup that was jet black. And by the time she was killed, she was 12 and white as a ghost with claws on her so long. She was a babysitter.
Wow.
She was just the pack babysitter. They would all bring meat back for her, but she watched the pups. There was still a purpose. She didn't hunt. She stayed so close to the den so long that her claws grew almost curled under.
Oh, wow.
Because she just wasn't a hunting wolf anymore. But the amount of wisdom that you get, the amount of understanding you get from other dogs watching a wise old wolf is just... You cannot measure it. And so after 12 years, and this, because you had a radio collar, well, now we know where the wolf is. Some wolves, I think she trapped him 3 or 4 different times. And her number was on the collar of this radio collar of this wolf when it was shot. And so the guy called her. The guy who shot the wolf called her, and she went to visit him. And she's absolutely heartbroken. This wolf was 12 years old and had been through so many pups, and she had all these papers, and she's taking them to this hunter. She wants to show him this is where her home range was. This is who she had pups with. This is how many pups she had. This is her on a kill site. All these things, all these crazy things. And he was incredibly appreciative. And when these two talk, it's almost like he loved the wolf as much as she did. But she couldn't understand why he wanted to shoot it, why he wanted to kill it. But because she had been in those meetings, there's a place in Montana called Fish Creek, Montana, where a lot of these new wolf hunting regulations come from. They come from lawmakers from the Fish Creek area who have this constituency that's like, get rid of them all. We want it. And there's some really archaic rules in Montana where you can use those night vision, and they're really trying to eradicate. And there's hundreds of wolves that have been killed in Montana. And I'm sure some of those things are going to be walked back, and we'll find some medium. But the hunter was so pleased. He goes, I love the woods. I love the elk. I love the wolves, and I never see them. I hope that this wolf gave birth to other wolves that someday my children will see, and hopefully my children will hunt. So I just like that. That's what I want. I like the wolves. I think they belong in the ecosystem, and I want to hunt them, much like the elk, much like 1,000 generations of inhabitants of this land have done, right, for such a long time, and so they kind of went away with this like mutual respect and understanding, and it was a fantastic book, and I would encourage anybody interested in wolves. It's heavy on the biology and the anthropomorphism, because these packs are so dynamic and so social and so similar, right? We see ourselves in these wolf packs,
right, and
in these wolf dynamics. Now, what she talked about, what happens when you go and hunt these wolves is you take out an alpha male, you take out the breeding female. Well, now they have to replace that. Well, if you hunt or trap or kill 3 members, and they're all alphas, right? Now you have a bunch of pups on their own. They're really not sure what they're going to do. They're going to harass cattle. And so we need to find this understanding of...
So it's kind of like a mature buck versus, or like a brow tine bull versus a full bull, right? So a spike versus brow tine, like understanding their developmental level helps us appreciate their system so that we can harvest.
Right.
What do we say? I got the wrong words popping in my head here. Harvest respectfully, so to speak.
Right. And even the Native Americans understood we need to kill the males because the girls have the babies.
Yeah.
Right. And we need more babies. We don't need any more males. So they would understand killing the bucks and killing the bulls are better, not just for trophy sake, but for ecology's sake. Mm-hmm. But we don't see that when we hunt wolves. The males don't have identifiers.
Yeah.
At distances anyway.
Right.
At other than extremely close ranges, and so there's something there. There's something there.
Yeah.
But we certainly but there's also this new element, and she did not address that at all. That is the growing population of humans that also prey on the same species. So what she did talk about, and we talked about the hierarchy before, how wolves will kill coyotes. Coyotes will kill foxes, but wolves won't kill foxes, right? So she expanded on that better, and I was a little embarrassed. I didn't think of the mechanism behind that, right? But they don't have overlapping prey. Right? It's pretty much that simple. The coyote and the wolves have a little bit overlap in prey. Killing a coyote is good for the wolves. A coyote or a wolf and a fox don't have overlapping prey. So there's no reason to kill a fox. But the coyote and the fox have overlapping prey.
Interesting.
Right? And so they want to kill that. Well, guess what else has overlapping prey? Us and the wolves.
Yeah.
Right? We have to address that. And she did not in the entire book. And so I know it's frustrating for somebody who loves the wolves, and I know people. There's people kill them all, and there's people let them all live, and there's just so much dynamics in this debate and understanding.
Movement of active management, which means we kind of have to have a median between the two.
Yeah. And I think when the pendulum swings like it did in Montana with the night vision, and we're gonna find out how successful those hunting methods are when so many wolves were killed out of the Yellowstone pack in Montana, right? They said, okay, we're done hunting wolves here. Even though it was still in season, the Fish and Game said, okay, that's enough. But I think it was because they were using these incredibly advanced techniques of location and the firearms. I've watched some guys on YouTube hunt these things with the night vision. And they're down in the valley staring up at the mountains, and they're just like, oh yeah, there's one there. It's 900 yards. It's 1,100 yards.
Wow.
And they're shooting that far away at night and have to go find out what they hit in the morning. Anyway, so it's techniques and tactics like that will have the pendulums probably, I would guess, swinging the other way. And the Fish and Game is just going, all right, you can't do this or you can't do that, or
you have to trial and error into what's the best practice.
Yeah. And there are programs. We've talked about the wolf economy, right? What we need is a good wolf economy. And they talked about bounty programs, right? If the state just said, hey, $1,000 per wolf, bring them in. And that's how they died out in the 30s and 40s, right? With the strychnine. Hey, for every one you bring in, we'll give you a bunch of money. And that's motivation. But there already is that system that exists, and it's not a bounty system because I think that's against the law. But they have a reimbursement program.
Yeah, possibly. I don't know.
That's almost the same. It's just like the same thing. Like all the gas.
What's in the name?
Right. It's semantics. So that was a great book. I have a new book, Grizzly Confidential.
Coming soon.
I'll get to listening on it soon. But what a great book. If you listen to the podcast ever at all, I love the wolves. I really do. And I love conversations about wolves.
And I had a thought about you and wolves during our conversation today. So I gave you a little knick-knack of an elk.
Yeah.
Your spirit animal, right?
Yeah. It's in the truck still.
Okay, but as much as you talk about wolves, I'm like, did I give you the wrong spirit animal? And I realized, no, I did not.
Oh, really?
No. The reason why you're so focused on wolves, Because you're an elk. You got to know.
I have to know. I am an elk, and I have to focus on the wolves. That's right. Situational.
There you go.
Yeah, I think the wolves are fantastic. I love hearing stories about them. I love hearing the stories about their lives, and I too, I kill an elk. He had brothers.
Yeah,
he had friends. That was communal, right? They lived in a community. They knew each other. They knew each other's voices, and the same thing with the wolves, and there is an element of sadness when that elk's life comes to an end.
Yeah.
I feel it, and it's all part of this big mixture of emotions that comes, for me anyway, when I'm hunting, and I have no doubt that I would feel that mix too with wolves.
It's just a really interesting world of balance and community.
Yeah,
really, if you think about it.
Yeah, and I'm excited to see how things go with Colorado.
Yeah,
because we've been going down this road for 25 years.
It started.
Yeah,
it probably won't take long before you start hearing rhetoric.
Yeah, 10 years. Well, the rhetoric's already out there.
True.
10 years before you can even believe any of it.
Yeah.
But wolves, I mean, in one respect, Diane K. Boyd talked about how easily it would be to eradicate wolves again. But she also talked about how tough it is to eradicate wolves because they're so smart, they're so good at staying away, they're good at reproduction, they're good at hunting, right? So she says all these great things about wolves, but about how good they are at growing their population, which we have seen firsthand.
Yes.
Which is why we need to hunt a few of them. Yep. Anyway, fantastic book. Diane K. Boyd, 40 Years of a Woman Among Wolves.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah, it was a great,
fascinating journey too. So thank you, Diane, for your dedication to that. What do wolves eat?
Oh, they're
so
yeah.
There's kind of a leading question because I was trying to segue to what you said the overlap prey or whatever you were saying.
The prey overlap. So
prey overlap, yes.
Another great story she told in the book was she was out in a Piper Cub. You know what that is? A 2-seater airplane made to land just about anywhere.
Yeah.
And they're out looking for the pings. They have the radio collar receiver, and they're trying to find the pings from the radio collar. And they find one, and they have to get lower and lower and lower and circle, and they see that it's the whole pack feeding on something.
Oh wow! And
they get closer and closer and closer. It's a mountain lion.
Oh wow!
Yeah. And so, what's that about? When she started trapping, she first trapped a mountain lion and saw how it was built, right? It's made for this ambush attack. It's made to claw and bite and crash and crunch. But the wolf is different. It's made to hunt in packs, and its head to body ratio is way different. It has a much bigger. It's made to be tall and thin and fast with a giant head to really bite through. Mountain lions are short and stocky all the way through. So she talked about that difference, and she talked about why they killed a cat, because they're not eating it.
Okay.
Right? But it's prey overlap. But also she brought up toxoplasmosis. Because they killed a cat. And she talked about not just that it leads when they come across it. And it is rare that they come across it, but when they come across it, there is there's a benefit for the cats, right? Yeah. If a wolf takes riskier behavior, that wolf is in greater danger the rest of its life.
Yeah,
that is a net positive for the cat.
Yeah, that makes so this weird symbiotic relationship. Yeah. That's fascinating. So I'm glad that you remembered that detail. Yeah, we talked about the toxoplasmosis, and that just adds to the layers of that understanding
deeply.
So that is really cool.
Interesting. Yeah,
but the overlap prey is the elk.
Yes.
And so in my haphazard segue attempt, I got a cool story out of it with the toxoplasmosis, but I was trying to segue to some elk actually being killed that you heard about.
Yeah. Sergeant Hendricks, a good friend, an Army veteran. God, what did he put in? 24 years?
Yeah.
He put in some time. What a great guy. He was actually a recruiter here in Twin Falls when I was on the radio, and he would come in every like Wednesday on the radio and be on the radio with us.
Yeah.
And it made his recruiting stint much easier. And we just became friends. And he comes back to town once in a while because he's got family. He's got family in Dietrich, actually.
Oh, wow. Oh, yeah, we've talked about
that. Yeah. And we talked about it last week. I said, hey, Hendricks is coming down. He's going to hunt. I go, you going north of Cary? Yeah. And he goes, yeah. So all I wanted to talk about when it comes to Hendricks and hunting was the different dynamics of the herd when in November versus September.
Yeah.
Right.
This is fascinating too.
We find 10 cows and we're like, jackpot.
Yep.
That's incredible.
Yeah.
Hey, there's 5 more over here. There's 7 or 8 over here. Hendricks said we had to get up high and find the herd, but when we found the herd, there was 300 of them.
That's cool. And
you had to wait for all the bulls to move so you could shoot a cow.
Yeah.
Because they had cow tags.
Yeah, that's crazy.
So, but he said one of them was butchered and packed on horses. The other one, he said, it's down the road a ways. And so Hendricks go, okay, I'll run down and get it. Ran down, it slid as he was able to back up to the hill. And it just slid into the back of his truck, the whole thing. And, that kind of dream.
Yeah.
So
lucky.
Yeah. And, his dad wanted to do some hunting. So he didn't have a tag. He just came up to hunt with his dad and had some funny stories. The camper experience I had when I went elk hunting in Montana with the flurries.
Yes.
I don't know if I told you, but it's cold overnight.
Yeah.
Cold. And it's warm during the day. It's kind of warm. And inside the camper, the flies come back to life. Ugh. Yeah. I don't know if you've experienced that. Overnight, it gets cold enough in the camper overnight. All the flies, they don't die. They just stop moving.
Yeah.
Right? And they just fall. And then you get up in the morning, you start cooking, things start warming up, and you see these flies like twitching on the counter. And pretty soon there's flies flying around.
Yeah.
Anyways, it's just one of the fun things about camping doing those November hunts.
Yep.
That's just odd.
I was outside today for a while before the podcast, and man, I'm feeling the November vibes of wanting to get out. And we have an open season. We've talked about trying to get out. We haven't had the chance. I'm too busy this weekend. You said you're too busy. So it's kind of like it tears a hole in your soul.
It does.
Hunting because we have an opportunity. There's a whole landscape that we want to explore.
Oh my gosh.
That we've been talking about. You started talking about before.
And we should. Just a hike. Even if we don't see anything, just a hike up in Glass.
Yeah.
All the things that we see when we go hunting. All the incredible views we have that no one, you take a picture and it's like pointless. It's so beautiful. But it's the entire scope. It's the sharpness of the air, right? And it's the steepness of the terrain. It's the vastness of how far and how high we are in the mountain and the temperature. It's all those things that come together that make sometimes standing on top of a mountain just an incredible experience.
Yeah.
And a picture,
it's worth it, but it's not the same. That in the moment experience is really what drives me a lot of the time out there. Because even though I'm hunting and we have great encounters with elk and deer, it's the combination of all the experiences to those moments. The visuals, the exertion.
It's all the It's the food that you're eating. It's all the emotions. It's every sensory input. Because it's so novel from what we're used to. It's so novel. And so all those things. That's, I never eat Spam at home. It just doesn't appeal.
Yeah.
But Hendricks gave me a good hard time for eating Spam.
I wish I could. I just can't do it anymore. I tried.
I know. It's okay.
I luckily have a son that will eat what I try because I can't finish it. And he's like, I'll eat it. Do you have another one? You got 3 cans?
I told him I'd make him I told him I'd make a quesadilla. He goes, I ain't eating no Spam quesadilla. I go, don't you worry. I've graduated up to smoked pulled pork.
Yeah. Hello.
Yeah.
Oh man, nobody should turn that down.
No, they wouldn't. They wouldn't. Yeah. Deep in the woods, he wouldn't turn down a Spam quesadilla.
Yeah, I was like, what's funny is you think I would be thinking about hunting our last weekend, but I'm like, did you bring pulled pork? for our quesadillas. Like that's what is on my mind.
Yeah.
And that's probably too revealing about me. But
It's one of those emotions that you can really look forward to. A good hot lunch high on the mountain is a fun thing.
Yeah.
It's one of those novel things. You don't get to eat like that very often. So
let's talk about the Klamath.
Yeah.
Now this has been going on for a decade of dam removal.
Yeah.
And they had 3 or 4 dams they removed.
I think it's just this year that the dams were removed.
Or was it just this year?
Yeah. That's what the article was saying.
A decade in the making of
removed, anyway. Decades in the making is the lawsuits and the tribes that have sued to open up the Klamath River.
But I know you're probably doing the same thing when those videos pop up in your feed about the next removal, right? So I've been watching these unfold over time. So I guess if it was this year, I guess they can remove a dam pretty quick. They're old, and I guess the infrastructure there isn't quite like a modern dam. So I guess it all could have happened this year.
Most dams aren't like the Canyon Ferry Dam or Hoover Dam.
Right.
Those are big
Huge,
dams. Yeah. And there are thousands of dams, but there are not thousands of Hoover dams. Right. We have, what's the biggest? Dworshak.
Yeah.
The Dworshak Dam is one of the biggest 5 in the United States. It's huge, but there are hundreds of others that are small power stations that just don't allow and some of them are good for flood control and irrigation too, but they just for whatever reason don't allow fish to go past them.
But they removed all these dams on the Klamath, so it's now a free running river again. And what's the estimation of having it repopulate with species of fish and vegetation? The remarkable thing is not long, at least for some fish.
Not even a year. It hasn't even been a year. And the biologists are shocked at how many fish have returned to the river.
That's inspiring. It's a really cool story to see those things. I like to see when nature can return to its more natural state, when we can find alternative, more appropriate ways for things. Indeed. I'm not shy to say, look, I would love to see the Twin Falls up here become unplugged of the power station that blocks its namesake.
Yeah.
Here in the Twin Falls area.
So actually, if we can unpack that a little bit, because the image for the city of Twin Falls is actually a picture of Shoshone Falls.
No, it's not.
That's Shoshone Falls.
No.
That's Shoshone Falls, down by Durkee's Lake. That's Shoshone Falls. That's not the Twin Falls.
The image on the Twin Falls sticker is the Twin Falls as they were before they were dammed.
But Twin Falls is further upstream.
Yeah.
Oh, well, anyway, it doesn't look anything to me like Twin Falls. I've been to both of them.
Yeah.
And
we've never seen Twin Falls with water running over both sides because there's a rock in the middle.
Yeah. You're right.
So,
okay.
Because one was higher than the other.
Yeah.
And so they dammed the higher one and channeled it over the lower falls.
Okay. Because it looks so much like Shoshone Falls. That image looks like Shoshone Falls.
Yeah. Let me.
Anyways, we don't.
Why am I on YouTube? Anyway, we don't have to get distracted by that. I guess
no.
We can agree to disagree. I've always felt like that sticker was of Twin Falls.
Yeah.
So the Twin Falls.
I always thought it was too, but I've been to Twin Falls. I've never seen it look that good. And the Shoshone Falls, which is closer to Twin Falls, Idaho, than Twin Falls. Snake River is close to Twin Falls, Idaho. Anyway. But most of the water restrictions aren't for power; it's for irrigation, right? Yeah,
that's Twin Falls.
Looks like Shoshone Falls to me.
I think it looks like
Twin
Falls.
Okay.
It's
I think Twin Falls looks pathetic because I have never seen it with that much water.
No, because it's been owned by Idaho Power, and they put a dam on it, and water's removed for irrigation purposes.
Right.
So we're lucky when we get to see Shoshone Falls with the water it gets sometimes.
I know, but if it's coming over Shoshone Falls, isn't it also going over Twin Falls? I guess it would have to be.
Yeah. So you could go see a nice show
I
at
suppose.
the Twin Falls. But it's just on one side, which is like I was all excited, like, oh, the namesake. Hey, it's got.
And there's only one park in Twin Falls County that charges you to visit that park.
Yeah.
And that is Shoshone Falls. Durkee's Lake and Shoshone Falls. So anyway,
I can see where you would feel like Shoshone Falls could look like what we just looked at.
Yeah. Okay, thank you.
But I mean, but not when there's full water going over it.
Yeah.
So you have.
It looks like there's two falls there. It's all right. We can. We don't need to look up historic photos of Shoshone Falls. And
this is an Elk Season podcast. What are you doing?
I know. I'm
Stop
sorry. I'm
distracting
sorry.
me. It's my fault.
I'm sorry. It's just me. I just feel like that picture is a poor representative of Twin Falls, or a mild representative of Shoshone Falls.
All I was saying is I'd like to see it undammed so I could at least appreciate whether or not I think it sucks or not compared to Shoshone Falls. That's all I was saying.
Listen, all I'm trying to say.
Shut up, you pinhead. You make me sick.
Anyway,
Anyway, we awkwardly got off on that tangent.
That's fine.
We can awkwardly bring it back, though, because historically to the Shoshone Falls, that's as far as fish could swim up to this place anyway. So we can at least put an end cap on the fish swimming upstream conversation. And now let's talk about reducing the deuce. Peakers.
We've talked about the 14ers.
Yes.
And it's a big deal to hit a bunch of 14 peaks. And we talked about the traffic jam and the nightmare that is Mount Everest.
Yeah. And other places. Like in
yeah.
You know.
We just need to limit. We just need to have a limit. All these people want to hit these 14,000-foot peaks, and they're taking dumps all over the mountain and not cleaning them up after themselves.
It's ridiculous.
So anyways, there's a company that wants to install outhouses along the 14er trails. So that's what that story was. They recognize there's a problem. They recognize people are still going to do it. They think they can help, and I hope they do.
Yeah.
So anyways, that's good.
Yeah.
Good Sometimes luck. When I camp in an area, right, I camped in the same spot like 3-4 weeks in a row this year.
Yeah.
Right? I keep having to find different places to dig a hole.
Yeah. It's a process.
So I can see what it would be like if there was, hundreds of people.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Big Cat in Kimberly, which is a dog town, as we mentioned at the intro.
And bulldogs are pointless. Have I told you about bulldogs?
Yes, you had one.
Bulldogs are pointless. They cannot reproduce. They cannot have sex naturally. And they cannot give birth. They all have to be artificially inseminated and birthed through cesarean. It's like the most worthless thing. And so people love them.
But what happened to the cat?
I don't know. I just thought Big Cat in Kimberly, and they have a picture of a bobcat, which is not a big cat.
Yeah, it kind of looks goofy. I don't know if I don't know.
It's bigger than a house cat. So, a big cat. I mean, it's just a headline. Big cat scares better than
the intern was working that
day. Right. I Googled big cat, and there was a nice picture.
Yeah. Feral cats can be a problem. Big cats can be a problem. We've talked about that. We actually have a couple photo trail cams, and we saw one in the middle of the day.
Yeah, we did.
In an area. So we know that they're quite plentiful around in the South Hills here. But we've also seen plenty of black bears.
Yeah.
And you showed me, I don't know who he is and I don't know what his credentials are, but I don't disagree with the assessment because I would imagine there's probably a lot of black bears.
I forget his name, but he was on the Meat Eater podcast. That's Steve Rinella's podcast. And he's I forget his name. I wish I knew it. Remy Warren? No. There's a few of those guys that are real famous in the hunting world.
Clay something.
Oh yeah, Clay Newcomb.
Yeah, Clay Newcomb.
Clay Newcomb. Yeah, Clay Newcomb. Very reliable source. Very reliable source. I forgot to tell you, I was working at a car lot when I was in my 20s, and I heard this girl say, "Oh my gosh, you know what? This is true. I heard this from a guy in a bar." And I go, stop right there and consider your source. Yes. Right. So when I always think of that story, when I think consider the source, who's telling you, right? What kind of expertise do they have? So I like the Meat Eater podcast. Steve Rinella will have on a biologist, a wolf biologist who doesn't think we should be hunting wolves at all.
Yeah.
He'll go ahead and have a civilized conversation with her. And he'll have another one with Clay Newcomb. And Clay Newcomb just says, whatever it is we're doing in North America, North American black bears outnumber all other bear species in the world. All 7 other bear species. Combined times two. Yeah. So whatever it is we're doing, black bears are flourishing greatly. They're doing really good. I would have to say it has to do with human garbage. Yeah, right. I've seen, I think, because we follow these incursions of black bears, and I think I showed you a video. I'm not sure if I did, but a black bear in a cul-de-sac walking upright from garbage can to garbage can.
Yeah, probably.
And I said, if you saw that and it wasn't around garbage cans, if you saw a bear walking upright, you would swear you saw Bigfoot.
Yeah. Yeah,
you would have sworn bears spend an awful lot of time on their back legs.
Yeah.
So,
and they like to go places. They'll get in your car. They'll go. They know how to open doors. They are the velociraptors of our modern world.
And they are ruled by
their stomach,
their bellies.
Yes, and so a black bear in an artificial berry patch. What do you think that could be?
Oh. The amount of calories in a candy shop is next level. Isn't just next level. And to have a bear have a smorgasbord like that, and to know it's there, can you imagine you're a bear? I can smell the sugar when I walk into a sweet shop. I can.
Yeah.
I'm an old man with a bad nose. Can you imagine how excited that bear was to be in that room?
And yet to be harassed by the staff and other patrons to get out of there? How rude.
In Gatlinburg, Tennessee.
Yeah.
Yeah. They're very prolific over there. Lots and lots of black bears. And I would have to say a contributing factor would probably be the garbage that humans contribute. Because if you've seen Over the Hedge, there's a whole diatribe of Bruce Willis talking about food. This is where humans get the food. This is what they drive when they go get food. Here are people that deliver food. Here's what you eat when you eat too much food, right? I mean, this whole thing all about food. And it's like he's a raccoon, right? He's like, don't you worry, they throw plenty of it away.
Yeah, and the garbage is there. Coincidentally, on campus today, I'm walking from building to building, and there's squirrels pulling trash out and eating the trash and licking the contents of what's left in the chip bags and lunch boxes, and it's kind of disheartening. I'll be honest.
You almost don't need bear-proof trash bins, but wildlife-proof trash bins.
I mean, I walked into to teach a class one time, and I was passing this tree. I heard this rustling like a plastic bag, and I'm like, "What's that doing in the tree? Did it blow up in the wind?" And when I looked up, it was a squirrel holding this bag, chewing on it. And I was like, I actually took a picture so I could remind myself of how depressing that is. But it just was like.
Have you seen the squirrel feeders where they're like horse heads? No. And they put like some peanut butter and stuff inside the horse head, and the squirrel gets up in there, and it looks like a squirrel with a horse head.
No, that's funny. Sounds like a good time.
It's a good time. Yeah, that's all.
That's all we got.
Yeah, okay. I know that was a lot. I know it's a lot. When I get into a good book, man.
Hey, a good book's a good book.
And one thing sparks another memory from the book, and the toxoplasmosis I know you wanted to hear about.
Yeah, I'm glad you remembered that point, because it just I really do like the information I learned from that study, but I hadn't heard it from any other source. So I'm glad that you brought that up.
Yeah. It was fascinating. Anyways, have a happy Thanksgiving.
Be well.
And we'll see you in December.
Stay awesome.
Goodbye.
In the morning light, before dawn, bow grip tight, heart beating strong. Through the forest, ancient giants roam, in the land where the wild calls me home. Through the whispering pines and the autumn breeze, driven by the chase, crisp air I breathe. With every step I take, earth beneath my feet. In nature's beauty where the hunter and elk meet. bugles echo loudly through the veil, a symphony of an ancient tale. Through the whispering pines and the autumn breeze, driven by the chase, crisp air I breathe. With every step I take, earth beneath my feet. In nature's beauty where the hunter and elk meet. Silent as the morning mist, I travel on with careful grace. Every shadow, every sound surrounds me in this wild embrace. The challenge and the thrill, the patience and the skill, in the dance of life and nature, my heart's forever filled. As the sun sets, shadows long and deep, I find my place with the memories I keep. The chase and the beauty of a day gone by. Deep in the mountains, my spirit cries. Through the whispering pines and the autumn breeze, driven by the chase, crisp air I breathe. With every step I take, earth beneath my feet. In nature's beauty, out where the hunter and elk meet. Here's to the wild places where the elk and I both roam. The chase that brings us closer to the place that I call home. In the stillness of the forest, in the grandeur of the land, I am one with nature's wonder, with my bow here